We're already in wind-down mode here at the 2012 KOTESOL National Conference, but one major presentation ahead, the plenary presentation by Marc Helgesen, and we're joined by him now only moments before. How you doing?
Good. I just finished a workshop and then geared up for the plenary, which I'm looking forward to.
Now, your plenary has a very interesting title. Tell us what the title is.
Well, the title is Happiness 2.0, ELT and New Research in Positive Psychology. And but actually, 2 minutes into the session, I'm going to reframe it as Well-Being 2.0. Because happiness... Okay. For a long time, people associate happiness research with positive psychology. But positive psychology has become bigger than that to look at a more holistic view of everything included in well-being. So going to look at what that can mean in the ELT classroom, both in terms of very specific activities with specific grammar points or specific language points, the kind of things we normally do as English teachers, but also issues like relationships, which means rapport building and goal setting and things like that. So.
How long has this been an area of focus for you?
6-7 years. I got into it by accident. There was a Time magazine had a special issue on the body and the mind, on what they called the science of happiness, which is positive psychology. And one of the articles in it reported on the work of University of California Riverside researcher Sonia Lubomirsky, who identified 5 things that happy people do. And let me back up here a second. Positive psychology is basically the study of happy, mentally healthy people. Traditional psychology has studied mental illness. Positive psychology studies mental health. Okay, Lubomirsky identified 8 behaviors of happy people, and I realized they were things that a lot of us as English teachers are dealing with anyway. For example, one of them is count your blessings, notice good things in your life. Well, that's grammar, that's past tense. And notice good things as they happen. Well, that's the present or the present continuous, or it's some kind of present. Learn to forgive. Take time to say thank you. Those are language routines or language functions. We're dealing with this stuff anyway.
So this is not just about creating a positive atmosphere in your class and enabling the learner. This is about the linguistic component of...
Absolutely. And it's not just power of positive thinking. That's a philosophy. This is science. This is replicable studies. And I find, although one of the results is you do get that very positive atmosphere, and the brain science is really clear. Happy students learn more.
How has the response been to these kinds of presentations and this focus? Do you find people saying, yeah, that's all very nice, but we're here to learn. It's not about being happy or having fun. We're supposed to...
Well, no, it's not about being happy or having fun, and that's where the science part of it, and that's why I really stress, I want to see the science. I want to know what's going on. This is very closely related to neurolinguistics and brain science. And when you're happy, the neurotransmitters in the brain, the serotonin, the dopamine, the endorphin, is kind of lighting up the frontal cortex, all of the neurons, the something called learning centers. And so it's good science. But I also make it clear to the students, there's a reason we're doing these things. This is not just, warm fuzzies and smiley faces. Here's the reason we're doing it. Here's what to notice. Let me give you an example. Sometimes we do fluency activities where students think about a positive event in their life, talk about it, and the partner's task is to ask WH questions. Because what happens with that is what psychologists call an active constructive response. You tell me when, about a time you're happy. Great, when was this? Who were you with? Where were you? It's helping the language flow as opposed to the, when were you happy? Saturday. End of conversation. So it gives them a language strategy, but it also helps recreate that positive emotion. So it's doing both things at the same time. And students get it. And they say, oh, okay, that makes sense. I understand that. I do think it's important to tell them why we're doing things.
Now, I have to ask you, you are I don't know if legend is quite the word, but you're a very well-known figure in the Asian ELT world, and you've been at conferences forever.
Since God was a kid.
When did you make your first presentation at a conference? I don't want to date you or anything. But.
I'm married. I don't want to date. No. I don't know. Late 80s.
So 20 plus years, let's say.
Oh wait, no, a lot longer than that. Late 70s.
Late 70s.
Yeah. So yeah, a while.
So you started presenting in high school, I guess.
I've this summer will be 30 years in Asia.
Wow.
So,
what is your sense for the evolution of ELT, for the evolution of happiness for language teachers? Where are things headed?
Where they're heading?
Well, first let's start with the evolution, and then the
evolution. I mean, language teaching is really interesting. Some of the problems that we had 30 years ago are still here. But I would say I'm based in Japan. I've been coming to Korea for well over 20 years. And the professionalization in both countries and Thailand, all over, ELT is a much more professional operation than it was at that time. And we just know a lot more. Back in I came to Japan in '82, and that was sort of the height of the communicative revolution. Well, communicative is no longer revolutionary, and we've had a few cycles since then. The science of ELT is much better. We know more about SLA. We know more about teaching. At the same time, we have teachers are still too busy. Teachers. The professionalism has increased. There are still a lot of schools that don't treat teachers well. Tests are increasingly important, and unfortunately, what's usually on tests is not the stuff that the students actually need to be able to use English, because those things are so hard to test. So those things I think are still problematic. Overall, though, I think things get better.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to know how you've written a number of textbooks over the years.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that?
Still doing that. Well, primarily with Pearson Education.
How has that evolved? Do you feel like textbooks now are a lot better and more innovative? We've talked to a few people who've produced a few different textbooks. Like, is there anything really new out there?
I think there are new things, there are new developments. When we went through the communicative revolution, that was a paradigm shift. So huge changes. And now that a more communicative and task-based methodology is more accepted, the changes are not as radical, but I think they're changing. Something on the negative side is all of the publishers have gotten so big, and publishing a textbook has gotten so expensive that they don't like taking risks, and risks are the only way you make breakthroughs.
Do you see anything online that catches your interest? Any alternatives to? I don't want to get you in trouble with people who pay your paycheck, but
Well, I mean, blended learning is clearly the way things are going. One of the things I love about online stuff is it means the students have to come in contact with English more often, because it's things. Very often you'll do the practice component, what used to be homework. Well, it's still homework, but they're just doing it online, which means they have to come into contact with English more than once a week or more than twice a week.
Even cheating and plagiarism can be productive English now. At least they have to go to Wikipedia and copy and paste and figure out which parts to find.
The problem is if they actually process the language, which is the problem with a lot of cut and paste from Wikipedia, is they just, okay, that's on the topic. But yeah, there are things. Can I, quick thing, just sort of psychology. I've got a website called ELT and Happiness, and spelled out, AND.com, where there are like 50 or so downloads, and it's all free stuff that teachers can use in their classroom to connect positive psychology to specific language tasks, etc. So,
thank you for mentioning that. Anything else you want to mention or plug?
No, just good luck to everybody and have fun. As I said, 30 years, and you see some teachers who are like, oh, do I have to still do that? No, we get to still do this. It's.
How do you maintain your passion as a presenter? I mean, you've been standing up there in front of the audience for a long time, trying to inspire. How do you keep your batteries charged?
Keep changing, keep doing new stuff. Just change for the sake of change. Just so I did a dictation today that in a different way. I just learned last month a new way to use dictation. I mean, and dictation's been around like longer than either of us, and just keep learning new stuff.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for all you've done for the ELT community. The keynote's going to begin soon, and it'll be on the same channel as this video. Thanks again.